All right, I'm here with State Representative David Arconti from my neck of the woods, the 109th District here in Danbury. And I wanted to talk to him about the response to the storm from Eversource and the problems associated with that utility company, because Danbury, my neck of the woods, was one of the hardest hit areas in the state from the storm. And to say the response from Eversource in terms of getting the power back on and the communication between the utility company and Danbury was bad is an understatement. So for my readership, I wanted to get our state representative, who is also the head of the Energy Committee here at the General Assembly. He's the best person to talk about this subject. So David, thank you very much for talking to us today. And can you just give us a little bit of the update, the current situation with Eversource and the outages in the area? Are we all set now?
Yeah, I don't know for certain if Danbury is 100% back online. I still think there are some problems over on the west side of the city, but I know the vast majority of our area, the 109th, the northeast part of Danbury, is back up and running and back on the grid.
All right, now I'm quite certain I can get the answer right now, because a lot of elected officials in this area were quite upset over the response from Eversource. So just give me your initial thoughts and your concerns regarding the response to the storm in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, so I think one of my biggest concerns is how they got the pre-staging so wrong. So Eversource pre-staged this event as a stage 4 event. How they rate things, 1 is the worst, going up to 5. And the UI territory, United Illuminating, they pre-stage for an event 3. So what happens during pre-staging is that allows the utilities to get crews here and start getting their in-state crews ready to go. So, pre-staging for an event 4, and by Wednesday night around 11 p.m., they changed it to a level 2 event. So, in order if you pre-stage correctly for a level 2, it's 8 to 18 days restoration time. That's if you get it correct. So they pre-stage for a 4. That's why for the first, you want to say 72 hours, everyone was beyond frustrated. Constituents, elected officials, you just saw no presence here. Right. And that was because they only had a couple hundred crews in the entire state. So 200 crews spread out all over their whole territory. That's why it looked non-existent, right? And, before you can even start restoration, you have to do what they call make safe protocols, is making sure the tree limbs are removed from the wires. They're not live wires. And for whatever reason, they do make safe protocol first, then restoration. Those things aren't happening at the same time, which is something we're going to try to flesh out during our informational hearing with them. And then on the communication side, Mayor Bowen has been in his role since 2001, so he's seen plenty of storms come through, and he's never had this type of response with the utility in any previous storm. There was just a lack of communication and a communication hierarchy for this event. Our former fire chief, TJ Weedle, served as the emergency operations manager for this, and it was very difficult for him to get the information he had on the ground to the utility so they knew where to go and what needed to be done. I mean, Newtown Road, exit 8, was out for 5 days. I cannot believe there wasn't a serious accident in that area.
Yeah, that was incredible, that Newtown Road where around Walmart, around the medical offices, that was out for like a significant amount of time.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
And I communicated that area as a problem area directly to Eversource early, and it still took way longer than we anticipated for that to be rectified.
Yeah, again, I've been in this area for quite a long time. I remember the storm of 2011 that knocked out power for a significant amount of time here in the area. Sandy of 2012. We've had storms in this area. We had a microburst a few years ago. Yeah. We've had situations where power would go out for a while, but never At least it's my personal opinion, never have I seen a response to a storm so inadequate than the storm we had here. I mean, again, Sandy was much more powerful of a storm event. I think 2011 was pretty bad storm also, but nothing. I just couldn't believe the response we had to this. Glen Apartments, which is senior housing facility area. I think that's in the 110s. I think it's in the 110s. Oh, by Rogers Park. That was out for a long period of time. You had seniors there. I just I think for the amount of money that we're paying for our electrical service, we should expect an adequate response to emergencies such as this. And I don't think anybody would agree or be on board to say that Eversource did a good job in this scenario.
You're right. I have yet to find a chief local elected official in the entire Eversource territory across the state who was satisfied with this response and the communications they were able to have with the utility. And you're right, you know, we pay a premium for electricity in the Northeast, and there's a lot of reasons behind that. But, you know, the fact that ratepayers have invested hundreds of millions of dollars into the utilities for grid resiliency and vegetation management since the Irene Sandy storms, and to still have this happen and the response and just, you know, is unconscionable.
Yeah. So I wanted to touch on, since we're talking about money a little bit, we know that recently a lot of, I'm sure anybody who was watching their utilities bills got a little bit of a shock recently, to say the least. I know I was pretty stunned to see the amount of increase I had to pay in my utility bills. I think it was the delivery. Can you just elaborate a little bit on what happened here, and what are your concerns about this?
Yeah, so, you know, I'll start with, you know, the action we took. You know, I organized pretty quickly the leaders of the Energy Committee, myself, Senator Needleman, Ranking Member Formica and Ferraro, and then the leadership of all four caucuses. We sent a letter over to PURA requesting that they suspend the July rate increase and put them back to the June 1st levels, and conduct an investigation into the rate increases, whether to, you know, determine a number of things. One, whether the utilities are over recovering based on previous rate cases that they were allowed to go to the ratepayers for cost recovery on. So those were suspended, put back to the June 1st levels. Based on the timing of it, I think it's going to miss the August billing cycle. So I think it's going to start hitting in the September billing cycle because it happened so late in July. But so, you know, from my perspective, there are four kind of separate scenarios all coming together that resulted in this shocker for people in July. One was the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. They approved a transmission line rate increase sometime in the spring. So that had an effect on people's bills. And I know Senator Blumenthal and Senator Murphy have reached out to FERC on that decision, because that's something, the transmission lines are completely under their jurisdiction. State policymakers and regulators have no role in that. And then there was rate cases that were settled in 2018, which allowed the utilities to get cost recovery for previous storm management, things like that, and vegetation management. So that hit the distribution side of the bill in January and June of this year. And then the fourth thing is, you know, the Millstone Power Purchasing Agreement, you know, went into effect last October. So that is a premium. Essentially, you're paying for that energy now. So all four and combine that with the summer and the fact that did play a role, right? We're in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone is home now during the hottest part of the day, when in a normal environment, you're at work consuming electricity on the commercial side, now running your AC between 12 and 4 p.m. during the hottest parts of the day. So all four of those scenarios, you know, I believe came together to really hit people hard in July. But you know, that's part of the reason why I did not support the Millstone legislation in 2017, Because from my perspective, the Millstone nuclear power plant is a regional asset. The entire Northeast grid and ratepayers of the Northeast benefit from that generation asset being online in the ISO New England. So the ISO New England grid operator should have been the ones to negotiate and figure out a solution with Dominion Energy on the nuclear power plant, because this is what happened. Connecticut stepped in, but the power purchasing agreement now falls solely on the Connecticut ratepayers. It should be spread out through the entire Northeast ISO region, because the whole region's benefiting of it. So you're getting the region's benefit, and we're paying we're shouldering the load of the power purchasing agreement.
Well, so where do we stand at now? I know that the Energy and Technology Committee, I know you guys sent a letter to the CEO of Eversource, yep. James Judge, to ask him to attend your hearing. And I also know that the, make sure I'm getting this right, the Connecticut Public Utilities Regulatory Authority, yep. They're going to be holding a hearing pretty soon on this matter. Yes. So where do we stand at now? Did the CEO respond to your letter? And if people want to provide input into this hearing, how can they do that?
So the pure hearing is the 24th. That first hearing is on the rate increases. They haven't scheduled the one. I do believe they're planning a docket and a hearing on the storm response as well. I don't believe that one has been scheduled. And there is there is an opportunity for the public to participate in the rate increase hearing. I think they're having the public submit written comments towards the end. Okay. We're looking to finalize the agenda for our hearing. We're looking at August 27th for ours. I'm looking to finalize that early next week. We're still working on who's coming to represent, for each company respectively. So hoping to have an answer on the other question early next week as we get that finalized. And I'm hoping, so far he hasn't addressed Connecticut in any meaningful way. Mr. Judge, I'm referring to, he came down for the briefing with the governor at Eversource offices in Berlin, and decided not to address the media afterwards with the governor and his leadership team. He decided to leave and let another representative of the company be the spokesperson for that. So I'm hoping he comes and answers questions from the committee.
So he hasn't responded. I know you sent the letter off on August the 11th. He hasn't responded to that letter yet?
Not directly. I've had some conversations offline, with them. It's promising that I think he's going to end up participating in the hearing. It hasn't been quite confirmed yet. So we're hoping to do that Monday or Tuesday.
Okay. If you had an opportunity to talk to him right now, can you give me just one question you would like to ask him? What would be maybe your top question you'd like to ask him right now?
It's like for a company that has made $1 billion profit in 2018, how is it that your communication system just absolutely fell apart during a pandemic where people are suffering already, and they can absolutely not shoulder any more unlucky breaks? How does the leader of your company not address the state of which he serves, leading, what will be 2 weeks now? So, that's probably one of the first things we'd like to get an answer from.
Now, I don't want to take up much more of your time, but of course, if members of the public would like to reach out to you and express their frustration, you can share the public's thoughts towards the people at Eversource. What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with me would be by email, david.arconti@cga.ct.gov. I check it once every couple hours these days. On it all the time now. Definitely not a part-time legislature at the moment, but that's definitely the best way to get in touch with me. And I'm pretty good with responses, so we will get back to you in a timely manner.
All right. Well, I know there's I know one question that several people in the public asked me to relay to anybody out, any
Yeah.
state lawmaker, because they know I'm involved in this stuff a lot. A lot of people want to know, will they get reimbursed for any of their losses? A lot of seniors lost a lot of their food because the power's been out for a significant amount of time. And I know, for instance, like in New York, Con Edison is reaching out and saying, "Hey, we're going to, help you people out for people who lost a lot of their food and
Yep.
things of that nature."
Yeah.
Will you be addressing the people at Eversource about that at all?
Yeah, so I publicly called on that. I publicly called for both companies to reimburse for food and medication that was lost during this event, and take, follow the lead of Con Edison. I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the morally right thing to do. It seems like Eversource is not going to do that, but Senator Needleman and I have been working on concepts for a bill this past week, because we want to take some action on a couple things. And I plan on introducing legislation at some point, whether it's in a special session or if it's when we're back in January, to actually mandate that in events like this, if power is out for 72 hours, every day the power is out after that, you would get a $100 billing credit on your utility bill a day after that time period has gone by. And within that same time period, the utilities would be mandated by state statute now to reimburse you up to $500 for medication that was lost due to the power outage and food that was lost during the power outage. I really, we've been in a pandemic now for what, 8 months.
Right.
So many people have lost their jobs, have been furloughed. Small businesses now lost another weekend or another week without power. For a company that made $1 billion in profits, I really think it's the morally right thing to do to help people out who may have lost some food or medication during this outage.
Yeah, I think that if I'm correct, a similar bill than what we're talking about was attempted to get through the General Assembly back in 2012.
Yep.
It's pretty funny. Why don't you just take that bill and try it again? I'm sure a few Republicans are holding their heads down in shame for not passing that bill back in 2012.
Yeah. I mean, that's the language from I think the language I just described is a little tougher, but it's the same concept. That bill passed the House in 2012. Never got taken up by the Senate, unfortunately. But hopefully now there's a little more muscle behind that concept going forward.
Well, again, I hope so, because again, we can go back to the previous storms back in 2011, 2012, and I absolutely remember a lot of tree cutting and a lot of the money that the taxpayers in this area paid to try to clean up that mess so it wouldn't happen again. And lo and behold, a storm which was a lot less powerful than Sandy was. It did a lot more damage in terms of like power outages. Newtown Road, for instance, again, like we talked about, the Glen Apartments over there by Rogers Park, areas of Brookfield. I think there's probably even areas out there in Newtown right now still without power. And if we pay a lot of money, we expect something in return. If you were getting $1 billion in profits and the CEO is making 11 mil, we want a little something. We want a little something back in return.
Right. And you just want to touch on, if you believe science, or if you believe in science and scientists like we do, the likelihood or the chances, I would say, the odds of a Category 1 or even maybe 2 hurricane making it all the way up the East Coast, staying intact, those odds are increasing as the climate and the oceans warm. And that's something that we as policymakers, the regulators, and the utilities really need to start taking a bit more seriously. Because imagine if that event got here, imagine if the tropical depression got here as a Category 1, we'd all still be out of power.
Yeah. Yeah, and not only us, a lot of seniors and people who are on assistance would be out of power.
Yep.
And I would never want to see a loss of life or anything close to like that because of lack of like power. Doesn't make a
Right.
lot of sense. But thanks a lot for everything that you're doing. I don't want to take up a lot more of your time. Again, if people have more information or have questions about, questions to Eversource they want to relate through you, I'll pass it in from your email address on the website, and they'll get in touch with you. But again, thanks for everything that you do. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.